Have you ever wanted a video game where you could just play as King Arthur? Well, now you can, thanks to King Arthur Legends Rise, a new squad-based RPG from Netmarble and Kabam. They're the ones that actually created Disney Mirrorverse and Marvel Contest of Champions. And they wanted to sponsor today's video and have me give you guys my first impressions and my thoughts on the game and the good things and some of the bad things. So let's get into it. So the whole game is created in Unreal Engine 5, which I thought was actually really cool. This is technically a mobile game. Yeah, you can play it on PC with crossplay, and it's also available on Steam now. The graphics are actually kind of insane. Like, I've been playing it most of the week, trying to level up my characters in my account and just, get my true impressions of it. And sometimes I was like, man, they actually knocked it out of the park with this. Like, these graphics are insane. And it made me forget that I was technically playing a mobile game. And don't worry, the graphics do look really good on your phone as well. I'm personally playing it on PC. Either way, you're gonna have a really good experience. And the funny thing is, they actually flew me out to Los Angeles a few years ago, actually, when the game was in early development. And even then I was like, man, the graphics are pretty good, but they actually somehow made them even better these last few years. So honestly, good job on Kabam for doing that. But anyways, let me get into my first impressions of the game, tell you what it's about, how it plays, and the things I liked and the things that I didn't really like. So starting off, there is a main story and a campaign that you can go through where you'll meet a bunch of different characters, which that's a good thing because I like a story in a game. I don't really play games without story because for me personally as a player, that is like a big motivation for me to get into the game and enjoy it. And if it has good lore, likable characters, and it's immersive, then you're already off to a good start. Surprisingly, this game does have that. Right now, there are about 10 chapters. I didn't get all the way to chapter 10. Again, this is only a first impressions. I did get up to chapter 6, and the characters that you meet are pretty cool. They're all in the King Arthur like lore and like that time period. So if you're into that stuff, you'll meet a lot of characters that you probably know of. But something that did surprise me was the voice acting. Now, there are games like gacha games and mobile games that voice acting can be very hit or miss or just not good at all. But in this game, it actually surprised me. Very good, very well done. I don't know what actors they hired, but the ones that they did hire, they did a really good job. They evoke emotion, and when times are tense, it makes the scenes just so much better. And I feel like that's something that people don't really take into consideration. Like, they just kind of like overlook it, but you can definitely tell when a game has good voice acting. You don't really notice it in a sense, but when you play a game that has bad voice acting, then you really notice it. And things definitely get more interesting, I would say, probably after chapter 3. The first few chapters are like an introduction into the world and the characters, and like it's setting up the stakes of the story. But past chapter 3, things start to change and it gets way more interesting. And something that's really cool too is that when you go from chapter to chapter, the worlds will change as well. And it starts off in like a normal medieval type area, but then it starts to get into like the fantasy and like fairies and like weird monsters, and like the scenery like changes and it gets really cool, which I really appreciate because it makes the game less boring. I'm not even really into King Arthur lore or anything like that personally. The story in this one, I was actually enjoying. Now, like I said earlier, this entire game is made in Unreal Engine 5. You can definitely tell because the graphics are really good. And this is technically a mobile game. You forget that, to be honest with you. Like, everything from the cutscenes to the enemy designs and character designs and the animations and the boss battles, like, it's very high quality and it'll keep you immersed and entertained. I know they have like a motion capture studio, so the animations for the characters, like the fighting, looks really good. Some of my personal favorite from when I played were like the domain bosses, where you go to farm for character materials and stuff and gear. Like, there's a dragon that you fight, and like that fight alone, just for a domain to get gear, is really good looking, and it just helps with like the entertainment value. They really put a lot of time into the animation and like just the graphic quality, and it constantly was just surprising me when like a new cutscene or like an epic battle was happening on screen. I was like, dang, this is free to download and free to play. Like, okay. I mean, I know more and more games are being made in Unreal Engine 5. I feel like Kabam really like utilized it for this. Now, you've probably already seen on screen, but you're probably asking, okay, Doro, how's the combat? Like, what do you do? Is it real time? Is it strategy? Well, it's turn-based strategy. I already know that's gonna divide a lot of people, being honest with you, because not everyone likes turn-based. And I'm someone who's kind of like 50-50 on it. If turn-based is flashy enough and is dynamic and it actually requires you to think a little bit, then I'm all for it. I like it. Pretty much you'll collect characters either through the gacha system or the game just giving you characters, and then you'll build up your teams and build up your characters, level them up, give them gear, make different teams with different synergies, and then you'll just fight. Each character has like their own skills. They have like a basic, a skill, and like an ultimate ability, and you can read all of that in game as well to learn the characters. But of course, in the beginning, combat's easier. You can just kind of like mash buttons and just spray, and then you'll probably mostly beat all the enemies. But later on, like I would say chapter 3 or 4, it starts to like, you gotta really think. You can't just like random attacks at random enemies, because there's buffs and debuffs. Hell, there's even weather systems. Like there's a weather system in the game. Certain characters that will get debuffs if you're fighting at night versus the day, because they just do better during the daytime, or vice versa. I remember this one fight where there was a mage. Every time I would kill a different enemy, the mage would just resurrect them. So I had to put all my focus on the mage to kill him first, so that I can then kill all the other enemies. And it gets way more strategic than that for certain battles, but that's definitely later on in the game. Now there is a cool thing. I mean, if you're a casual player like me, there is like an auto battle feature, which is really nice. That option is there for you if you do want to utilize it for a lot of your battles. Enemies were getting stronger, and so then it kind of forced me to back off a little bit and level up my characters, because I would hit a wall in the story where like my characters were just dying, and so I would have to level up my characters, go farm for them, put on gear. Now with the gearing system, yes, characters do need specific gear, but for the most part, I would just click auto, and then the game would pick out my best gear sets that I had and just put them on the characters. And I think in the beginning of the game, I think that's totally okay, just to honestly raise your power level of your teams so that you can progress the story. And you can see the power level in the bottom left before every fight, enemies versus your own. So it kind of gives you like a good understanding of, okay, I'm in a better position than my enemy. The probability is I'll probably, you know, be able to beat this enemy with ease. But it's a nice way to kind of show your progress of your team and how it's going. And even before each fight, there is a button to the top right where if you click that, the game will auto choose the best team for that battle. Now there were times where it did pick characters that I just did not have leveled up at all, and so I kind of just chose the characters that I did have leveled up, and I was still able to do it. But it's cool that it is there, because as you progress in the game, I have a feeling that you will need to strategize a little bit more than what I was doing for the first half of the story, because certain enemies have certain weaknesses and strengths and buffs and debuffs, and you can't just put it on auto for the entire time, or just, you know, run any kind of characters that you want. And the reason why I say that is because certain battles will require you to have like 2 storm characters or 2 fire characters in order to get all the achievements. Because in order for you to get to the next chapter, you have to get all 3 achievements for each battle. And they're just different requirements, like defeat this enemy under 20 turns, or use 2 storm characters and not have anybody die, stuff like that. But you do have to get all 3 of them for each battle in order for you to continue to the next chapter. And at first that did kind of annoy me, but I think it's there because the game is trying to remind you that like, hey, level up your characters, because if you're able to get all 3 achievements pretty easily, then you're ready for the next chapter, because it's going to be more challenging. Now there are dungeons and boss battles to do in order to gain character materials to level them up. So you're gonna have to do them to level up your characters, which that's pretty standard in any game. But man, these dungeons are actually like really cool. Like one of the first ones is a giant boar. Then for gear, there's like a dragon, and there's even more types of enemies and dungeons to do as well. But these battles are actually really cool. Very high quality, very cool to look at like while they're fighting, especially the dragon one. That one's my favorite one. Now I mentioned this earlier, but there is a gacha system. Gacha games are pretty much, if you don't know, are games where you collect characters, either using the currency that you earn in game, or you can spend real dollars to buy more currency in order for yourself to get these characters as well. So getting that out of the way, if you do not like gacha games, this game might not be for you. But, and I say might not be for you because I have spent $0. I've been playing all week and I was able to get a lot of characters, and it's helping me progress through the story. I don't feel the need to spend money, at least yet. Again, this is a first impressions video, not a full review. You know, with a good 8 hours under my belt, characters that I've unlocked through free wishing, which they do give you free wishes every day. There's a banner, gives you 1 free wish. You can collect more characters that way, but then you also earn a lot of currency in game just by playing it. But yeah, right here, I mean, these are all the different banners that you have. And I was actually able to get very lucky and get this character. It's the girl with the tambourine. I don't remember what her name is. I was able to get this character. I don't know if I got really lucky or not, but I did. And then I got a couple of other legendary heroes as well. But then you also have a couple of different weapon banners, and there is a beginner's banner as well to help you secure a legendary hero early on. And then yeah, every character is a different class. You know, you got your knights, your mages, your rogues, and then the more characters you collect, the more different teams that you can build. And that's pretty much the whole entire point of the game. And there's a lot of different characters to collect, and they all look very unique and different. And I really like the designs that they went with. Yeah, sure, some of them kind of just look like soldier number 3, but I mean, that's a standard character, right? All the legendary and like high rarity characters look really cool. Oh, and then another thing, there is PvP in this game. I've only done one match, but you pretty much build your own team, and then you use your team to fight someone else's pre-built team that they did. Now, I'm not a huge PvP person, but it's there if people do want to do that. It does help drive a player to, you know, work on their characters more and build their characters up in order to do that, because you do get rewards that you will use for getting more characters. So it does incentivize you to actually try it and do it. And there's even stuff that I have not even gotten to yet, you know, because again, this is the first impressions, but you know, there's even more stuff to unlock and do. But let me talk about a couple things that I did not really like that I wanted to include in this video, so I'm not just glazing it up, you know. If you go to the store, the in-game store, there's a lot in there, man. I play gacha games for a living. It feels like a little bit too much. Like, I don't even know what I'm looking at this point. Like, there's just like, you just keep scrolling in different bundles, bundle number 7, this bundle, Valentine's bundle. Like, there's just so many different bundles and different like things. It kind of confuses me, and I'm just like, oh my God. There are free bundles that you can click on, and it's completely free to, you know, gain some materials and stuff. But everything else, it's just really confusing to look at. There's just too much, I feel like. Another thing I didn't really like is the UI. Like, the UI is good for the most part, but there's this bar at the top right that shows all these different banners and like microtransaction stuff that is just there, and you can't get rid of it. And I don't like that. I get it. It's a free to play game. They got to make their money somehow, but like, I would like to see them allow us to like get rid of that being there. Another thing I don't like, every time I would go back to like the main hub of, you know, the game, it would throw up a banner for me or something in the store like, go buy this now, buy this, check this out and buy it. And it gets annoying. Yeah, you can just click exit and then like you're good to go. I don't like that it keeps throwing that banner at you to like be like, hey, buy this, buy that. Have you seen this? Have you seen that? Like, I get it. We can spend money in this game. I don't want to. Stop doing this. You know what I mean? Those are my first impressions of King Arthur Legends Rise. Overall, I do like the game. As someone who's not huge into King Arthur lore, but does like medieval and fantasy stuff, I was really enjoying my time with it. And I would recommend this game to people who think it looks interesting, or if you're into medieval fantasy stuff, or I mean, hell, if you like King Arthur, then download the King Arthur game, right? I would definitely recommend this game, genuinely. There are some cons, but I think the pros definitely outweigh the cons. And it's free to download, free to play, and I spent $0 on this in the first like 8 hours that I've played it. I have not felt like I needed to spend money, which is a great sign for a gacha game. You can play it on your phone, your iPad or whatever, or on PC, and it has full crossplay ability. So if you're, you know, playing on your phone on the train and then you want to pick back up on PC, you can. And it is free on Steam as well. That's where I've been playing it, and it runs flawlessly. And there is a link in my description below if you do want to check it out. You can also follow them on their social at Play King Arthur as well to keep up to date with the game. And let me know in the comments down below what you think about the game. If you played it, what are your favorite things about it? And if you haven't played it and this is your first time ever seeing it, what do you think? Does it look cool? Does it not? Let me know. Thank you again to Play King Arthur for sponsoring today's video and allowing me to do my first impressions on it. Guys, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll catch you guys at the next one.